Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Here you will learn all things related to healing from divorce, mind, body, and spirit, so you can create a beautiful new life filled with happiness. I'm Rachel Ruby, author of Divorce to Bliss, divorce coach, speaker, and attorney, and I'm so glad you found me here. Hi, welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. This is Rachel Ruby, and I am so excited today for our topic. We are going to be talking about how men and women heal differently when it comes to divorce, and what specifically men need to do in order to go on this healing journey. What kinds of things are beneficial to them when they are just starting out. So I'm also excited because my guest today is a dear friend of mine, Stu Weintraub, who is a multi-talented man who wears many hats, as he just told me. And he has a lot of experience with healing and working with people who are healing, and definitely from divorce. That's one of the things he helps people with. He's also a self-acclaimed shamanic energy healer and a social impact change maker. And Stu is the founder and CEO of the Center for Child Safe Divorce, whose mission it is to help parents guide them through the process to protect their children from getting caught in the crossfire by using mediation instead of litigation. And Stu he also has a book coming out called The Heart of Divorce, and he's going to be a TEDx speaker next month, and so much going on. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So let's just jump right in. I first wanted to ask you if you could share with our viewers and listeners a little bit about your own journey and how you came to help people, specifically focusing on men and their journey through healing process.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
There I was about 17 years ago. I remember it, walking into the courtroom with my attorney. And I had only retained an attorney at the last possible second, and I didn't know the process. And I walked in and he goes, "No problem. You're a really hands-on dad. You told me you take care of your son at night when his mom's studying at nursing school, and no big deal. You'll come out. This will go fine. This will be 50-50. I walked out of that courtroom with 12% custody, and I was blindsided. And so that's the catalyst that started everything. And trust me, this was 17 years ago, and my son's amazing. He's 21, and his mom is so happy with a new husband and 3 kids. And so everything has had to happen in order to lead to here. And I know you have a similar story. It's my passion. So many people go through that divorce process. I mean, it's almost 50%, right, in our country. Yeah. And my work isn't about divorce and helping people divorce. My work is about giving voice for the children and helping parents do it differently. And divorce is not wrong or bad. In fact, in some cases, it's quite appropriate. But it's how people get divorced. And my story, the experience I went through was that it was incredibly painful, but not just to me. It impacted our young son, and for years. Yeah. And so as you know, it's a very emotional, financial, psychological, neurological, physiological, material. I mean, it's visceral. And what it was for me was the catalyst for a spiritual awakening. I didn't know it at the time. And so hindsight being 2020, some people say, make lemonade out of lemons. And so what's happened is I'm now able to be an agent of change by raising awareness and speaking out and writing, and of course, creating the Center for Child Safe Divorce with resources for parents.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And I love your mission, and I want to have you back another time so we can talk all about that, because that's a whole separate podcast. And I love what you're doing there. So protecting the children is wonderful. I really would love to focus a little bit on the healing differences between men and women. And just I think it's fascinating because I actually have done some research myself on this, and I just super fun. And I really think it helped me understand a lot how men tend to heal differently. So I would love kind of your input on what you've seen with some of your clients, and whether the way that men and women experience healing and how they go about it do you think it tends to make the journey easier or harder for men as opposed to women?
It's a great question. First off, I want to say congratulations to you, and your book and your successful media tour is incredible. And I love the work you're doing, which is mostly targeted towards women. And thank you for having me on, because I want to answer your question, because it's really, I pondered, how do men heal differently? And I want to know your research, because here's my answer. Most men don't. Most men don't.
Okay.
And so what I mean by that is we're not culturalized to ask for help. We're not culturalized to drop down into our hearts. We're not culturalized to feel. We're not culturalized to take responsibility all the time. We're culturalized to tough it out, fight through, pick up ourselves by our bootstraps and move on. And so, as you know, I have an amazing practice for shamanic energy healing and coaching. And many of my clients are 40s and 50s, post-divorce, 90% are women. But I love when men come to me.
Yeah.
I love it, because it's like, okay, first of all, I've been there. First of all, I've been there, and I know what you're going through. And the men that come to me are typically pretty broken and bruised, because that's what it gets to get them to take action. And yet once they do, incredible things happen. Not just for them, but in their lives and with their former spouses, and most importantly, with their children, and with their new, when it's time and appropriate, their new relationships and new partners. Dating after divorce. I love coaching men dating after divorce. It's like, it's very different.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's another, maybe we'll have you on 2 more times and we can compare, what men and women, how they, I think that's fascinating, because, you touched on something that's really important, and that is just the whole cultural, familial, societal, cultural, religious, perspective of, raising boys. And it's like, be a man, don't cry, don't be a sissy, and, you don't share your feelings. And I hope, I see, that seems to be shifting a little bit, as time goes on. Because I do know a lot of men who are sensitive and are not afraid to share their emotions, even cry. And I think that's fantastic, that we've come that way. But there's also, there's still a stigma with that. And I think a lot of families, especially older generations that have taught their children, and teachers and, whatever it is, coaches, the message has usually been for many, many generations that you're strong, you're a man, and the woman is the weak one. And so
be the man.
I think also it's interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was thinking about when women get together, it's kind of like a bunch of hens, and most women, of course, every woman doesn't fall into this category, but most women really like to share their feelings with each other because they need validation for their emotions. So, like when I get together with my girlfriends, it's wonderful. I mean, we cry it out together, we hug each other, and so obviously, because of this these, rules, which in my book, I call them, societal rules that men have been taught, and all these things that we don't do and we do as men, I think really puts men at a disadvantage. So let's talk a little bit about, men's groups and how important those are for men in the healing process, especially men who haven't been conditioned in this way and haven't known how to open up, and where do I go, and how do I talk to my friends? And tell us a little bit about the power of those groups, and how someone might
Yeah.
Get involved in those.
I'm happy
and your
to,
own
but
experience too with
yes.
those.
All right. Men's group. But
Yes.
first I have to address what you just said about how women get together. And so,
Okay.
I'm thinking of a recent client in particular. Great guy, but men come to me when they're banged up and bruised up, but men go out with the guys, right? They do two things they do two things as soon as they possibly can. They go out with the guys. They usually drink, they're watching sports, they're numbing out, right? But they're getting, culturally, the guys are like supporting them. Unfortunately, there's usually, and it's probably the same thing in the women's side of things, usually there's a lot of finger pointing. Yeah, she's this, she's that. And of course, a lot of people start building coalitions and stuff. And of course, there's always three sides to the story. But usually when it gets painful enough, they end up with, in my healing space or at a therapist, or they meet another man who said, hey, when you're done with that, if your life's not feeling too good, oh, and by the way, they go out and start swiping on the dating apps. Because that's what they do. They just look to replace her.
Exactly.
And again, things are changing. And I love that you mentioned that. When we're starting to see more people in the media and our celebrities and sports stars, and they're crying publicly and they're emoting, that this is all a good thing that shows consciousness rising. So the men who make it to a men's circle, the men who are brave enough. And in fact, I actually am launching a brand new workshop called Divine Masculine Mondays. And it's a sacred and safe space and a container where men can come together and be held. And it's a safe space where we can do the things we need to do for and with one another. And I say that it's, it's a biblical quote. It says, iron sharpens iron. And I look at it like two stones rubbing up against each other and they get polished. And men have to do that. We have to, I can speak from my own personal experience. I have a tissue box in my office, where my healing clients are. They sit on the couch and it says MVP on it, but it's not about sports. It's called most vulnerable person. If you're crying if you're crying when you're in a session, number one, I get so excited because I'm an energy healer. If energy is moving, then if tears are coming out, that means energy is moving. I said 3 words: you must cry. I haven't done my job and you're not done with me. Sometimes men come for one session. We have transformational stuff. I mean, I do full day. A session is a full day with me. I don't mess around. And by the way, that's what I develop mostly for my, in my practice for men, because we're busy. We're doers. We work. I mean, women do too, but we're just like, you mean I got to come back every Monday for 50 minutes and then, wait a whole week. And then we'll start talking again. And then, okay, I pay you and we schedule and another 50 minutes a week from now. No, we get down to business. So MVP, tears, crying, the masculine has to have the role model. Doesn't matter who it is, but it's typically a lot of us haven't had that role modeling from our fathers. The men's group in which I participated, I was led. I mean, it's called Mankind Project International, and there's many. But I learned about 4 archetypes of masculinity. And I was like, what is this? Well, there's the lover, there's the king, there's the warrior, and then there's the magician, right?
Yeah, love it.
I'm like, I'm all of those things. And they're like, yes, you are. But which one you're in at a particular moment is what we're here to help you with. Yeah. Okay. So it really is.
By the way, that was one of the best books I ever read. King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Yeah. Fabulous book. No, because actually I read that book last year, and wow. So every man should read that book, and every woman should read that book to understand men. So.
Yeah. I can tell you a little bit about my own personal journey, because you did ask about that if it's relevant.
Yeah.
So the divorce led me to 2 years of partying. And it worked for a while. And, the combination was just the right amount of like, I used to like to have a cocktail or two and maybe go out and be with the guys, or maybe, there was a number of women that I dated over that time. And that combination, fun and alcohol and dating all kept me somewhat feeling okay, and keeping those feelings, stuffed down. But I was led, 2 years later, they bubbled up, and what was happening was, my heart, my soul were just kind of screaming, and I had a transformational shift, and so that's when it started for me. I was led to an incredible amount of holistic healers. I was led to a beautiful community of sacred Lakota Native American sweat lodge ceremony, in which I'm still blessed to be a part of, and it's a regular tradition, a regular custom for me and practice, and the men's group. So I was led to experience these things. I'm not really a guy that reads and applies. I have guys that come here and they're like, yeah, I was watching YouTube videos. I say, have you been in therapy? Yeah. Well, who's your therapist? Well, no, I watch YouTube videos and I read this book. I said,
right.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
There's a lot of free advice out there. Yeah.
Self-help. And some of it's
like self-medicating.
Yeah. Right. And that's again, we're conditioned to just take care of ourselves, right? I got this.
Exactly.
I've got this.
Exactly.
I don't need help.
Yeah.
And when I first was allowed, when I saw other men doing it, it allowed me to feel safe to do it too, to share.
Yeah.
And to show myself and to show these feelings and to talk about them and to learn from others who had gone through it before. And that's kind of the issue, is a lot of the stuff, especially around divorce, people give advice. They give advice so freely, even when it's not even asked for, and it's not good advice, people. It's their advice. It's not necessarily good advice.
And everybody is different, and everybody has a different experience. And you can't apply just one, set of rules or one pathway and give this to somebody and say, this is what you need to do to get better. It's very, it was very focused on the individual. I feel the same way.
So I love to talk with men in a language that they understand. So I have a lot of metaphors and references to sports and cars. And I'm not really a car guy or a sports guy. I play hockey, but that's different. I don't watch sports unless my team's in the playoffs. The hockey. And it's like this. I tell guys, I go, you work on your car, right? You know how to change the oil, I bet. Well, you can fill the tires, because that's about what I can do. And I can check the oil, and I can put, I'm really good at the wiper fluid stuff, putting that in. But I don't fix my car. What do I do? And I get guys to say, like, you take it into a qualified mechanic who's got lots of experience and lots of testimonials and been doing it for a long time. And I said, well, and you do rotate the tires, right? And you do take it in for the 5,000 mile oil change or 10,000. You do the 30,000 suggested, maintenance, right? Well, how about what kind of stuff have you done for yourself? So self-care is like a totally new concept, to most men.
And it's interesting because I think that's changing a little bit too, because, it's become such a big moneymaker in this world, self-care, and, how people interpret that obviously is, there's so many ways to do so. I mean, but a lot of women, a lot of people just think self-care means, or women think it means taking a day off work and going to get a pedicure and get your hair done and have lunch with your girlfriends. And that's all great. It's all great to take a little break from life, from routine. But again, I think the journey for men and women, or I know the journey for men and women both, is really learning how to start this healing process. Yeah. And so I love the idea that you use these metaphors for sports and cars and try to relate it, because I think you probably get through to a lot of men in that way. And once you open up those so-called floodgates, I think, hopefully they will see that, yes, we do need to grieve. We don't need to hold it in. We don't need to be a man and,
Yeah. Another client comes to mind. Is actually a younger man, and was in the Marine Corps and served our country and brought a whole bunch of other, that's a whole experience. That's a whole different culture. And he's no longer, he's no longer in that environment. And now he's living as a civilian. And he came to me and he experienced a half-day journey session with me. And I just took him through the, and I get everything. It's always custom tailored by intuition, but I took him to the breathwork place and I took him we do foot detox massage, reflexology. He's in the cold plunge chanting with me. And I go side by side with these men. I don't tell them what to do. I take them. Very different.
Wonderful.
I don't give them stuff to do by themselves. I take them. We go together. We go side by side. And that's nice. Side by side. I said, everything you're going to do is stuff I've done and I do. And so we're just going to do some stuff. In the old days, men would sit around. It was called the schwitz. I love the sauna recently, right? It was called in Eastern European culture. And in a lot of the Jewish men would sit around and they would eat food in the sauna together and they would sweat out toxins and they would talk. And there would be intergenerational as well. There'd be young men and older men and there'd be elders. And so I recreated that in a way. And of course, I referenced Sweat Lodge. Wonderful. I actually have a ceremony this evening. And so sweating out toxins, not just physical, but also emotional, psychological, and getting the words to come out and getting the feelings to come out when a healer or a coach or a therapist knows how to open that up and have someone emote. It's the same thing with children. As soon as that stuff comes out, all the amazing love, self-love stuff can flow in. And then we can get to work on rebuilding. And then that's the man who's going to be amazingly attractive to a healthy woman for the next relationship. So I tell them like this, I go, how's it going in your dating life? They answer their own questions. And I'm like, how's it going? How is it out there? And he's like, it's crazy. They're crazy. I go, great. You do know that social media dating apps, I call it the land of the misfit toys, right? Guess what? If you're on there, if you're on there, you're one of them. So let's fix you up.
Yeah.
That's you will
so
attract.
Funny. Yeah.
And
I've had no experience with those apps. So it's really interesting though. I hear a lot of stories about them and
I
think there's a lot of people who haven't done the healing yet. And they're just like you said, getting on there and swiping and
I have done plenty of research myself.
I'm sure you have. But I mean, who you're going to attract when you go out there, right? Let's say right after divorce. And, I know a lot of men who have done that. As soon as they're divorced, they're out there, they're on these apps, they're swiping, they're looking at all these women. And the person you are then is not the person you're going to be when you do the healing work. And that person is going to attract and want to be with a very different person than the one you're going to find now on that app.
And exactly right. And what I tell these men, I said, well, if you're attracting the crazy, if you're attracting people who are crazy, guess what? So is she. And you're finding each other. Yeah. And so let's take a break and let's get you in the container here and let's break things down and allow things to heal and detoxify. So it's just like a scab as well. We've got to clean it out first, and then got to give it some time to breathe. I want to address something. A lot of some men who think they're doing healing work, that's another thing is like, oh yeah, I took some time off from dating. I'm taking some time. And, I went away on this retreat, this whole concept. We're doing retreats now. Most retreats are women are more inclined to take themselves on a retreat than men, but men are now doing it and they think they're all good after 10 days. Or maybe they even go to the Amazon and they're meeting a shaman there and taking some plant medicine. And they're like, I've had a journey, man. I'm good now. I'm good. Okay, let's see how it's going to go. But if it doesn't go so well, call me. Because it doesn't get changed in 10 days or a week.
Exactly.
It takes time. It takes time.
Yeah. It's like it's like any habit. Yeah. Any habit or anything you undertake, you're not just going to wake up and be a different person.
My client yesterday showed up. It was a 14-year relationship that ended. And he's actually a really beautiful man. He's a very sensitive soul. I relate to him, and I see his pain, and I see his suffering. And he couldn't get past the fact of, the loss. And, we had to go through that process to say, it was just a beautiful candle and it burned really brightly and there's no more wax. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. There's another candle there's another candle that's there. You will not be single. You would not be single. But I said, this is the catalyst. This is the awakening. And guess what? He's like, it's because I'm the middle child. I go, no, it's about the inner child, not the middle child. This is your break. This is the intermission in your life, in your life's journey to do the work. Well, what's the work? Everybody says the work. I work. He's the guy's a really impressive guy in his profession and what he does. Yeah. Super, super interesting guy.
Yeah.
But he didn't understand what the work was. And I said,
Most people don't.
Yeah. What's driving you to want to go back to the old relationship or find a new one quickly isn't the adult man. It's something deep inside from the little version of you. And so when we talk about that and we go into that, there's an entire different human being that comes out. And if you've ever done any of that stuff as well, by the way, I'm not a licensed therapist and that's not what I do. I love that institution and I encourage it. Yeah. But my work is in the space of energy healing and as an intuitive healer.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So if there's a man out there listening and saying, hey, this all sounds great. I want to learn about what it means to do the work and maybe find a group that'll help me. How do they find that?
Yeah. I mean, there's Mankind Project International, which is available really all over nationwide, I believe, at least in major areas. And I'm happy to be a resource. People can find me at stuartweintraub.com. And Divine Masculine Mondays is available as a group workshop virtually. And then, of course, I meet my clients privately, either in person here in La Costa, California, for healing journeys and or also virtual sessions as well. And, picking up that first, it used to be picking up that heavy telephone, or now it's just making that first call or that click or that text is the most brave thing a man can do, is to three words. I need help.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need some help.
I think men have a harder time asking for help in general than women because, well, I mean, I shouldn't say that because I have a hard time asking for help and I've done a lot of work on that myself, but up until now. Again, it comes down to that whole societal, those rules that teach men, you're the man, you can do it. You don't need anyone to help you. And I love that.
I can't get, my book's coming out next month, The Heart of Divorce. Yeah. And I cannot wait till it's actually out because then I've already started my next one, which is called Real Men Take Baths. And that is all about, demystifying what it is to what people perceive it, to be a man, to be masculine, to be strong. Yeah. And I'm going to make it really cool again for men to take baths.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And you've told me before that you love to take baths. I love to take baths too. I mean, it's such a wonderful, relaxing, healing me time experience where you can just let go of your day, your week, whatever, and just
consciousness is rising, and we're seeing more of this. It's sort of unfortunate that there's a lot of like you mentioned it. The economy and capitalism is gonna there's gonna be a lot of stuff that's available, and so some of it is more let's just say valid than others, but people will find their way. People will find their way. But thank you so much for the work you're doing to help. Oh, usually men, we're hardwired, right? And I'm talking about heterosexual, and of course, it's all gender appropriate what I'm about to say, or adapted as such, please. But we are wired to show up, to be available to women and to be able to be desirable and desired by women. That's our deepest hardwiring need. And so most men will take advice from women. So I'm marketing to women for the men they know, whether it's their boyfriends, brothers, sons. Most men will listen to a woman before they'll take the advice in this area from a man. Their buddies will say, hey, you ought to go see this guy, Stu. He helped me a lot. And they'll be like, yeah, I think so. Hey, man, did you see the Knicks last night? You know, it's like in one ear and out. But when but when a woman says to him, I think you ought to go see this guy, Stu. They like, oh, okay. Okay, I'll do it. I'll try it.
I'll listen. Yeah. That's great. That's really interesting. What you said about how a lot of men will listen to the women. Yeah.
Can you relate? Yeah. If you maybe think in your life where that applies, if it applies.
Oh yeah. A lot of men. Yes, I have family men and friends and who ask for advice a lot, and
that's
it's cute. I think it's great.
And that's until we have these intimate connections and really a deeper intimate relationship with other men that we really trust and then we really can respect. And so I have been led to that, and those relationships have been cultivated. I didn't necessarily come from that. I had lots of friends in my life, but I didn't have really strong men who held elder energy, who I truly respected, trusted, admired, and then would take their advice, who also were in a position because they were accessible and I allowed it, but they were also in a position to see me in my life and then give me advice I may not actually be asking for, but they would tell it to me anyway because they care about me and they love me. And that's what men do. We care about more, I say this phrase and I heard it from someone else. It's not mine, but I care more about your life and you than I do about your feelings. So although I'm a man who's very comfortable and I encourage others to use language and talk about feelings, and therapy is all about that.
Yeah.
It's very confusing when I say, I don't really care about your feelings. I care about your kids right now and I care about your future. So what I'm about to say might sting a little bit and you're going to thank me for it. By the way, everyone pays me in advance. And I tell them all my sessions are prepaid, just like getting on an airplane. You don't pay afterwards. And I do that for two reasons. Number one, it's a sacred custom to offer an energy exchange to the healer in advance. But also this, I go, there's times you're going to want to quit. I got your money. You're not going to quit. Men won't quit if they're already paid.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And then they thank me. They thank me afterwards.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's also in that book, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. I mean, as you know, a lot of that book is dedicated to the loss of these institutions where we had the elders showing the younger generations how to be a man, how to properly be a man. And in this world, we've just moved so far away from that, from kind of like the Leave It to Beaver kind of, what was his name? Wally Cleaver. Where dad is always around like, well, gosh, you need to, and because I think as parents and especially men, we're so busy. Men are so busy. Yeah. We're all so busy these days. And there's so many easy ways, drop your kid off at basketball practice and drop your kid off at, whatever. And we don't spend as much time with each other. So I love the idea that there's this organization who can kind of help with that. I think, especially for men who are not yet fathers and plan to be fathers one day, just to even if you're not having a trauma, just to join one of these men's groups, just for that alone. I mean, that is just huge, and learn what to instill in your son.
And it's community. So we form new family units. We form through community often. And what comes to mind is, I think you hit on something really, really valuable. And what I'm thinking of is, we're also very comfortable in our lifestyle. We can sit on the couch and click the remote, and even men, if we're single, we don't have someone cooking for us, we can get Instacart or our food delivered. And DoorDash. It's
food delivered in half an hour.
And we're very and we're very comfortable, and we have cars, and So part of men's work is also essential to get to help a man get uncomfortable. It's not something someone's going to do deliberately, and women too, by the way. It's the same thing, little different method, but to take someone help someone, assist them to get out of their comfort zone so that we can return and reconnect with nature and the elements. So when we're comfortable, we don't want to change. We don't want to grow. We just kind of turn the channel, watch something else, turn on another Netflix, eat something else,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the comfort level and things are just too easy. So why change it? I mean, that's how most people think.
And the answer is, at least in my work, your children.
Yeah,
I'll tell you why you're going to change it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why you're going to change it, because they're watching you. Kids don't learn from listening; they learn from observing.
Yeah,
and
even if you don't have children, or if you're older and your children are grown up, I mean, just to be the best person you can be, sitting there on the couch when you come home from work for 5 hours watching TV and eating popcorn and whatever, fried chicken is not going to help you evolve. And as I always say, we're here to serve. That's why we're all here. And if you're not your best version of yourself, how are you going to serve? How are you going to make a difference?
Yeah. I often start my new client intake conversations, which is, so what are you leaving behind? What's your legacy? What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I got a will? No. What are you leaving behind? What are you leaving behind?
Right.
What do you want what do you want to know? What should we say about you? I'm going to give you a eulogy and I'm going to talk for 20 minutes. What is it you want me to say? And what kind of character? Who were you? And how did you treat women? And what did you do with your spare time? How do you want to be remembered? Oh my gosh, it's a huge passion for me. I'm helping people do ethical wills now. It's such a beautiful experience.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And I help people do actual wills, and it's I understand that. Yeah, it's a whole different way of thinking, really, of thinking about not just being here and having things that you leave to people, but being here and being present and understanding who you are and constantly evolving and challenging yourself to become a better version of you so that you can do things to help others or the planet or animals or, whatever it is that's your passion. Yeah. So this has been great. Wow. Thank you so much. I feel like we could sit here for another hour and chat, but I'm super excited to have you back. Yeah, maybe after you go through this, get your book out and your TED Talk, and have you back to really talk more about the children.
Thank you.
Divorce.
I'm very, I feel very blessed and honored that I'm just the messenger. Is really why I'm here. And it's a real honor to be able to spread the message or carry the message from the Red Circle, the TEDx Circle that's coming up in June. And the true cost of divorce is the name of my talk. And I hope that it's my vision that, it'll be 8 minutes on YouTube one day, but I hope it's available as a resource, as will my book, that it just moves a few people in the right direction, that there are resources and there is a different way. And my mantra also, it's not just men's group, it's just it's awareness. It's like, hey, there's a different way to do this, not just divorce, but then the healing as well. Take care of yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to talk to like-minded people and who really get it. And as we try to help one individual at a time understand who they are and what they need and what they want, and create their new lives. And it's a wonderful thing. So I love what you do. I love your message. I'm so excited to read your book and see your TED Talk. Yeah. So thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me.
Again, anyone who wants to reach Stu, it's stuartweintraub.com is his website. And I'll put that up here for you. And thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Rachel, thank you so much for what you do. And thank you for having me. I look forward to coming back.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Take care. All right.
See ya.
Bye.